Hello.
Hi,
Hi. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Well, I'm happy to be here because we're going to talk about the sacred woman. And this is a very good thing, and we need to talk about this right now.
Right, right.
So, yeah, so I'm super grateful. And um, there's a number of different things that I think about when I think about sacred woman, but one of the things that I know globally and cross-culturally is that the earth is seen as a woman around the world, like around herself. Around herself, she's seen as this nurturer and, Unchimaka or Mother Earth or Madre Tierra or all of the different ways that we speak about the Mother Earth. Um, and I'm looking for this poem that I wrote about the sacred woman, and and I wanted us just to talk a little bit about uh, this this beautiful being that we live on, who is the earth, but also there is this story about a sacred woman, the white buffalo calf pipe woman. Um, or the sacred woman. And my Hunka mom told me a story about the white buffalo calf pipe woman, and my birth mom has also told me a story about her. But I want to just share that story. If yeah,
Yeah.
um, so in the story, there are a couple of hunters, and they are out hunting for buffalo to feed the people, and they're on a ridge, and they look down, and to their amazement, they see a woman, a beautiful woman, and she's walking toward them from the distance. And one of the brothers looks at the other brother and he's like, "Oh, wow, yeah, like I'm gonna go check that out." And so he goes over, he starts to walk toward her, and the other brother's like, "No, she's sacred. You can't do that. She's sacred. You can see that she's a sacred person." And the other brother's like, "Oh, she's so beautiful. I'm going to go over there." So he goes over there, and the other brother watches, and she opens her robes and she takes the brother in, and then she opens her robes again, and his bones fall out of her robe. And the other brother, he goes to her in a sacred manner, and he says, um, I know that you're a sacred person, and she says, "Go make a place for me, with your people." And I have the sacred pipe. I have the sacred pipe, and that's when she brought the bundle to the people, and she brought the 7 sacred rites to them. And so he went and he made a lodge, and then she brought the 7 sacred rites to the people. And after she'd done that, after she came and taught the ceremonies for those days, then when she left, she rolled over and she turned into a white buffalo, and then she rolled over and turned into a black buffalo, and then she rolled over and she turned into a red buffalo, and then she rolled over and she turned into a yellow buffalo, and then she disappeared again over the horizon. And so that is a really beautiful story that both of my moms told me, that I really love about a sacred woman. And that's, of course, the woman who brought the 7 sacred rites. So
A beautiful story.
yeah, I hope I was like, oh gosh, I got, nervous all of a sudden. And I was like, um, but I wrote a poem about it, and the poem is called Sacred Woman. This is from my memoir coming up, White Buffalo Calf Pipe White Woman, Tonantzin. This is a poem from the book. Outside seeking nourishment, where is the mother, source of everything? We have discovered sound. We captured her with our own 2 hands. She was coming over the ridge. One of us walked toward her. Who is this sacred person? One who waits, one who carries humanity, wishes we were able to speak with each other. Tenderly through the sweet grass, stalks of sage and wild echinacea, tenderly through the sweet grass, stalks of sage and wild echinacea. Our hands are filled with tears of many people. My brother disappears inside her robes. Everything dissolves except for his bones. I ask her in a respectful way what I can do for her. This day the sun sets in the place of questions. Make a place for me among your people. Can anyone remember to make a place for her? She carries something sacred. She carries a bundle that holds the future.
That was amazing.
Thank you, sister.
It makes me think about how we as women forget our sacredness
Mm.
and our beauty and our gentleness, even the confidence, within all of that.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
But I think too is that times have changed.
Yeah.
So we had to adapt into a different, I don't know, like a different role as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And even as the males are, even women seeing women, we see them in different lenses now. We
Yeah.
don't see, we don't, I don't want to say all, but some do, but and it's like the question is how do we get back to that?
That is such a great question. That's such a powerful question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because just, within the story of the two men, one knew she was sacred and the other was just eager. And I feel like a male, well, even a woman,
Mm-hmm.
we have that too. We have those two where we fight with ourselves and we always go to the one that may get us into trouble or make mistakes. And I guess that's how we learn, but then, sometimes we don't learn either,
Yeah.
So listening to your inner voice of the
Mm.
sacredness and respecting that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the battle of good and bad.
It makes me think about this story. It's a like from Roman and Greek mythology, and where it talks about Demeter. The and she was the goddess of the earth, and then she had her daughter Persephone, and her daughter Persephone was stolen by Hades and taken to the underworld, and then her mother like wept and cried and yearned to see her daughter, and she had to go to the sun and to these different figures that helped her to get her daughter back, but only for 6 months of the year. And there's several different renditions of the story, where like he pushes pomegranate seeds into her mouth, like as long as she doesn't eat anything in the underworld, she's fine. But if
Mhm.
she eats anything, then she'll have to return. And so he somehow tricks her into eating these 6 pomegranate seeds. And I mean, there's so many different renditions, but I just think of like, he needed her.
Yeah.
He needed her. He was, unhappy. He was not, he didn't have fulfillment in his life or in his world. And so he, wanted to possess her and own her and take her from the upper world, right? And I just think that it's this interesting thing I think about with colonization and the need to possess and the need to have power over. And I think that that's the thing is I think that people, I think we're, I don't know, maybe even scared of our own power or been taught to be frightened of it.
Yeah.
But really we have power, and the question is, how do we want to use that power? Like you said, I love your question. Like, how can we get back to that place, or how can we get to a place where we're in the sacred, where we
Yeah.
recognize, like you said, our own sacredness, I think is
Yeah.
how you said it,
Yeah.
which is so powerful. And so I would just be curious about, well, what do you think will help us to do that? I mean, what are some ideas that you have around that?
I think I think connecting with yourself, and even going back to the, where the man within your story, where the man needed the woman and tricked her into something.
Mhm.
Um, I think as a woman, we're such nourishing and givers.
Yeah.
We need to, by connecting, when I said connect with ourselves, we need to know boundaries and what energy is good for us.
Mm.
Because then I think, well, I do it. And I just let others drain my good energy. And
Mm.
then that's when I'm lost, and I'm like, how do I get back to that? How do I set up boundaries, and how do I, all these things, and I forget who I am. And maybe that's, I forget who I am, and that's me being sacred. I'm getting away from that.
So to remember who we are, to remember that that we can stand in the
Yeah.
center, that
Yeah.
we, that, as Leticia Nieto, like there's in one of her charts in her book, I think it's actually from Pamela Hayes, but actually I can look that up again. But I think that it's like that recentering is important, like the strategy, the ability to have a strategy to connect with other women who know what's who kind of know who we are, kind of like you
Right.
and I. Like I can be like, "Oh, Issa, I know who you are." Like, I fucking know who you are, and wow. Holy wow. Like, what? Yeah, I know you are a sacred woman. I know you're a medicine woman. I know those things about you. Like, 110,000% sure, right? So it's just like, oh, like you're saying, like, I think that one of those things would be about connecting with community, connecting with other people who know,
Yeah.
um, connecting with I want to,
I think even like connecting with like believing who you really are.
yeah.
Because just as you were saying all that, I like a part of me was like, don't say that. I don't know if I am, like,
Oh, yeah. Oh, you
so
want to go into
just,
hiding?
yeah,
Mhm, mhm,
yeah.
uh-huh.
Just believing who you really are
Mhm.
and walking into that.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Because that's really what your journey is. Because once you steer away from your journey, then that's when all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, totally. And I think that, one of the things is that we do go into those patterns of confusion. I'm going to see if I can find that chart. Those patterns of confusion, and that's what women do, is it's like
Mhm.
it's like a protection thing. Hold on.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I action and
It's not there. I'm looking for this. Because I also want to get the name right, like I always want to honor the people, it's like a thing. I like to honor them. But if I can't find it, that's okay. I'll go ahead and make that. But I think that one of the important things around, like centering or recentering when we get knocked off balance is one of the keys. Like, do I have a way to recenter myself when I get knocked off balance? It's okay. We can do it in our continuing. Okay. But I just, right? Like, I just think it's
right.
so interesting. And also just to ask people to be able to slow down and to, really hear where we're coming from. But I think that support is a really important part. that, how can we support each other?
Right.
Not go into doubting what we know
Yeah.
about ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like, oh, this is what I know for sure. And because usually it's because, like Issa, like you have so much to offer the world. You have so much to offer your community. You have so much power to be used for the good, right? And so if someone can get you to not do that, if someone prevents you
Yeah.
from doing the good that you can do in the world, and I mean, for me, it's just like, oh, what is the good that I can do today?
Right.
Right? What's the good that I can do today? That's what I can do, right? But
Hmm.
that's going to come from a place of me being able to focus on what is important for me to do and not to get pulled off center
Yeah.
by all of these other things. So how do we find our center and yeah, allow ourselves to.
How do we find our center?
Mhm,
I'm trying to think like what I do to find my center.
mhm,
Um, I meditate. That helps me even like fill my cup and make sure I get back on track. Praying
yeah.
helps me a lot. I'm just like, help me, I'm off track, guide me, please. It's something small and it's like a
Yeah,
snap
for
of a finger and
sure.
it's like, oh, okay, I got it, I get it.
Yeah, totally. Like, oh, okay. Yeah.
And then of course your support system.
Yeah. Hmm. For sure. And then, you know, I mean, I think that everything is just like there's something about just simplicity, you
Hmm.
know? Like there's a simplicity. And, I have more children in the house now. I've got my niece and nephew are staying with us. And so how do we get that simplicity? Because power it's like a simple thing, right? It's a simple, complex thing. Like, and I mean, I think we might do a two-part talk today. I mean, on the Sacred Woman, but we're also going to be going into the Thunder, which is the Wakion, right? That's the next in the order of things.
Hmm.
But like, it's simple. It's
Right.
not, it's like,
It's
there's
not hard.
thunder. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's lightning. Awesome. Great. Like, like, you know, but everything is so complicated. It seems like things get so complicated now. Um, and I'm thinking also about like the women uh, um, I'm part Middle Eastern and Iranian and I just remember because I recently found my birth father and I learned more about my ethnicities. And I just remember like, seeing, these relatives. And of course, we're all related, right? But I also remember seeing my relatives, these Iranian women on the streets fighting and just knowing that, oh, we're, a woman, and the woman life freedom. And I think that there's just something also really important about everyone. I'm not going to tell another story, but there's another really good story about just like, what does women want?
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing men want, exactly the same thing that non-binary people want.
Right. It's sad that women women are sacred. Women are a backbone.
Mhm.
Um Men they also have medicine.
Yeah.
But I feel like maybe somewhere along the line women were a threat. So then it was
Mm,
being silenced. Women were silenced.
mhm,
And maybe that's why our disconnection is there
mhm.
of who we are and fighting for our freedom when we're we're
Yeah.
free already, we're
Yeah.
free already, but I know that some women aren't free.
Yeah.
And so
To do her.
that's sad.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah, it is. And that, you know, that and I've seen this, around the world, but I've also seen matrilineal lines,
Mm,
where it's the medicine comes down in a matrilineal way,
right.
but everyone
Yeah.
carries medicine. Everyone has power, and
Yeah.
and women, of course, are natural healers.
Yeah.
But we have the same parents, like my stepfather that raised us. He was a medicine man, and people came to the house for healings,
Mhm.
and and he did healings and things. But you know, he taught me and he taught my brother. It wasn't like, oh, like
Right.
we all were raised in the same house, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we all learned the
Yeah.
same stuff.
Right.
And of course there's things that we inherit or we
Hmm.
have special gifts, right? So I have a special gifts for, for seeing spirit. I have, so I had different gifts and healing gifts. So there's certain jobs that different people are good at. And
Right.
so, but it's the adult's job to say, oh, these are the things you're good at, not
Yeah.
to say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this.
Right.
Especially if you're called to something, you belong there,
Yeah.
as long as it's in a respectful manner and you've been asked,
Yeah.
you know, because that's the key is, we have to be asked or we're not.
Right.
Um, so, you know, um, and who knows? I mean, those are just thoughts. I
Yeah.
don't know how all that's landing, but those are just some thoughts and I think that yeah, just what can we do to support each other in creating a world where everyone has a choice and everyone can do the right thing and where where women, the sacred woman in each of us can have its full expression,
Right.
um, and power,
Yeah.
and that we can uplift each other.
And what's coming forth too right now is that as each individual woman, we need to remember that we are sacred and that we have to be gentle through those times too,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
respecting ourselves as women.
Yeah. And each other.
Yeah. Yep.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, it's really interesting. Toni Morrison, who's an author that I really love, talked about, um, she told the story, which is the Cinderella story about, the stepsisters
Mm.
you know, um, and just like that, we need to stop
Right.
doing that to each other.
Yeah.
We need each other and we need to not be
Yeah.
in patterns of competition
Right.
or jealousy or which really tells us that we need to work on our self-esteem and
Yeah.
we need to work on our compassion,
Yeah. And be gentle,
yeah, with each other,
self-loving. Yeah.
yeah, and allow allow room for mistakes.
Right. Yep.
Like I make a lot of mistakes. Like just now, I couldn't find that paper, you know what I mean, or whatever. Like, oh my gosh, I hope I quoted the right person, and did I say the name right? And maybe not. It's
Right.
okay. You
Yeah.
know, we can course correct that. So it's just like just to know that there's room for mistakes, and that we can correct our mistakes,
Yeah.
and but that we're not a mistake.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
um, yeah. So, and it was really beautiful because I got to see like my Honka mom doing all kinds of ceremonies, and we traveled and we would do gourd ceremonies and we would offer healings. And so for me, that was like normal,
Hmm.
you know. And I'm going to tell a story that my stepdad told me when I was really young. He says, "Oh, women are born with more power than I have at 45." He's like, "I'm 45 and you were born with more power. You have the power to give life."
Yeah.
and you have the power to, heal, and you have the power to see these spirits, and but he's like, women have more power than men do when they're born, and I just thought that was an interesting thing
Hmm.
for him to say, so I was just like, oh, okay. But I think that just to have that kind of encouragement from the time I was young was just like, I've always just been like, hey, everybody gets to win.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
all equal and we all can win. And I honestly think we all have power to share. I don't know if I really believe my stepdad that I have more power, but who knows? Maybe he's right, maybe not. But I think we all have power to make positive change.
Right.
And so that's what I'm looking forward to. And I think we all need to have equal power, and whatever one person is doing, everyone else should be able to do, or we're not in a world with equity.
Right. Yeah.
You know, men, women, and non-binary, we all need to be able to do whatever it is that we feel called to do,
Mhm.
you know?
I think we're adjusting into that.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that too. Yeah, I can see that too. Really powerful, beautiful work. Yeah. So, do you have any closing words around? And I think, do you want to do another thing on Sacred Woman?
Yeah.
Maybe we could do a little bit
Part
more, and then I'll
two.
have part two.
And you'll have your paper you're looking for.
Yeah, yeah, I'll bring the book. I'll bring Leticia's book. I think it's Leticia Nieto and Margot Boyer, I think. And there's like four other authors because it's like, so yeah, I can bring it next time and make sure we have it so I can get all the names right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think just for women, men, and non-binaries, like we all have, I think I'd like to just talk a little bit about how we all have the masculine and the feminine and the non-binary within each of us.
Right.
And so how can we just over this next week, just really looking at, um, what is the condition of like the masculine in my nature, what is the condition of the feminine in my own nature, and what is the condition of the non-binary or the integrative, because it is dynamic, magnetic, and integrative.
Mhm.
So I'd like to speak a little bit to that in our next talk. And
That'd be fun.
yeah, Sacred Woman, part
And I,
two.
yeah, and I encourage the viewers to look within yourself, to
Mm,
connect within yourself. Who are you? What do you offer to yourself, to your friends, to your family, to the world? Because we all have a gift, we all have medicine. So what does that look like for you? Yay.
thank you, Issa. So beautiful. I will reflect deeply on that this week. Yeah.
Me too.
Mm.
See you.
See you next week. Look forward to it. Part two.